It's easy to ride the big waves, but when the tide goes out, you really find out who's naked.
Yep, let's do
it. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Ryan, I love that we picked this topic because I just finished Jeb Blunt's book for the second time now, Selling in a Crisis. Mm-hmm. And he talks about the need, like salespeople have to be skilled in order to win in an environment like what we have coming up, right? Like in an environment like in 2019. We face it all the time in logistics. I mean, let's call a spade, right? We're the first industry to feel when things go bad, and we're the first industry to feel it when things start getting good, right? Because people are shipping free. Yeah. And he said, a quote by Warren Buffett, he said, when the tide's in, everybody's swimming and enjoying, but when the tide goes out, you find out who's naked. And it's an interesting quote because what he means by that is when things are good, 2020, 2021, 2022, right? So much freight, so much ability to make money. You didn't really have to be that good of a salesperson.
No.
In order to make money. You didn't have to be that good of a customer service rep in order to look good. You didn't really have to add massive amounts of value to make money. Now, maybe to keep high quality clients and go through the levels that we talk about all the time, like Jeff talks about, where you get a couple of loads, then you have a better relationship, you add more value, you get more freight, you get, and then you start building that book of business. That is how we design our life. But the people that are unskilled, that don't continue their education, that don't continue to understand the psychology of sales and why selling is the greatest career on the planet, and why everyone sells in this environment, this is where they start really losing. So I think it's a great topic.
Yeah, and I think it's a great topic. And, it's just not coming for this year that I kind of want to talk about. I just want to look at maybe like the attributes and the characteristics and the qualities that they have, because we're all going to have different things, right? Because like that's why we had India talking about video. I might utilize video a lot. That's in my repertoire, but Jeff might not, right? But does that make me better salesman than Jeff? No, right? So that's what I think is like really important. Like you're kind of saying like, hey, in a crisis, they kind of sell. And you're so right. When the pandemic kind of hit for me, I had customers that I would reach out to, no reply, nothing. And then one day I just get an email for a quote. And I'm like, okay, so they clearly got my emails. Like they clearly know who I am, but it's like now it's kind of bringing that value. So I kind of want to get started because I think this was a jam-packed. Before we get started, I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, Jeff. Happy Thanksgiving today in the US. Jeff, I want to get started with you. Like you always say, you're not you're not a salesperson. You're an operator and you hate freight brokers. But with that being said, you've built an amazing business.
You hate freight brokers?
I do.
You do realize you are one, right?
And that's why I became one.
There we go. So we can do it better. Yeah, we can do it better. So
we see it all the time in hockey.
Yeah, exactly. From there, right? Yeah. But Jeff, what are some qualities that you kind of see on your end?
Becomes a coach.
What's that?
Yeah, sorry, I think we're getting convoluted. But what I was going to ask you, Jeff, is what are some qualities that you look for yourself to be successful in your role?
Well, everybody else is better salesman than me, and I'll be the first to say that for sure. And I learn every single day. But what I've learned, and I said it many, many times, was being on that other side of the fence of the sales calls and what you should do and what you should not do, which kind of benefited me because I know how irate I got and just frustrated from all those calls that I used to get, and they were many every single day, where they didn't know who I was or my company or what we did or who we sold to or where our facilities were. And those are major things within a conversation when you do talk to a prospect, because they don't want to hear, oh, I've got the cheapest rates. We've all said it, right? Or I have the capacity that you need when you need it. Call me. They hear it all the time. So you have to find a different approach to talking to these people, because you have to have empathy and feel what they feel when they receive that call, right? How would you feel from what you said to your prospect? That's the way I look at it. Would I accept it for what is being stated, or would I reject it? And that's how I build it. I don't try to go off a script, but when I do call prospects, I just try to be, I try to sit in their seat and I talk to them on their level. Never talk about freight, because that's all they talk about day in and day out. They don't want to talk about that. So being on the show, listening to peers, talking to competitors, I think is an advantage for every sales guy out there, because everybody has their own opinion on how to approach their prospects. And it's up to you as an independent to take what you've heard or learned and create your own approach and to see if it works. But you're always developing it every single day. It's never the same one, because you have to be, and I've said it before, a master of psychology, being that you have to change your skin like a chameleon and get on their page. You're trying to open up that prospect and understand where they're coming from. And every prospect out there is different from each other. It's not the same. It's not the same script. You're not going to say the same thing. So that's how I do it when I make calls.
Yeah.
Hey, I love the music.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome kind of scene. And the one
sorry, I got a little Kid Rock. I got a little Kid Rock playing in the background. I think that's me. I apologize.
Some copyright.
Yeah, sorry. It was Blue Jeans and Rosary, and I was just kind of like.
And there you have it, folks. Another sponsor.
Exactly. Yeah. We're gonna start writing these down. Jeff, you kind of mentioned, hey, they don't know that who you are as a person when you were receiving that calls. What are some ways that some tips that you kind of do to actually get to familiarize yourself with that person on the other side of the phone?
Yeah. And you know what? I do a lot of background check. Okay. So basically I'll write down a list of companies that I'm interested in the niche that I work in. And then I'm going to find out who the main person is. I won't just find out who that traffic manager or that logistics manager, but I'm going to go to the C level. I'm going to find out that C level. I'm going to look into its background or her background, and I'm going to find out what industries they've worked in and the synergies that we have, so that when we do speak, that he understands where I'm coming, because I'm using that verbiage that he's used to, and basically take one step at a time. And, hey, you don't know me, but listen, let me send you an email of my LinkedIn profile. I'd love you to take a look at my profile, because I did my homework on you. How about you do your homework on me? And as a matter of fact, why don't you look at all the service providers that do call you and see if they fill that niche? See if they have that experience and that background that could help you solve those issues and problems that you have on a daily basis. And I say daily because I know you have them. Every day in logistics is a different story. It's a different book. You're not attacking the same problem. It's all different, and so basically that's just the way I'm talking now. I'll just say it like that. And if you think that I do fill that void, let's have further discussions. That's pretty much it. I'm not going to force anybody that way, and a lot of the leads that I get are from other bosses that I've had that happen to say, hey, I know this one, you've worked in that area, why don't you give them a call, tell them that Mike said call, or something like that. So, so many different ways. Everybody has different approaches. So
yeah, your big processes, referrals and testimonials and that kind of stuff from your present clients to give you other clients. Which,
right.
When you build your business to a level where that could be your sustainability and that could be your growth,
right,
that's when you grow exponentially, because you're already, a good friend of mine says to me, you should go watch this movie. I'm going to go watch the movie because I trust their judgment, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing in business. Hey, you should deal with this guy, Jeff. Okay, I'll have a call with him for sure. And it's what happens. It's an easy in. And not to mention, they're not going to put their name on the line if you don't do the work.
No way.
Right? If you don't serve them in the way that they want to be served, they're never going to put their name on the line. How many people have, oh gosh, I can remember when I was younger, it was like you'd ask somebody for something. Yeah, okay, let me think about it. And they never get back to you. You start thinking like, do I not provide value? Do I not, like, how does this work? Like, am I not doing what I think I'm doing? And then it gets you to start really paying attention to what you actually do for your customers, and does it equal value
Correct.
in their
Correct.
mind?
Right. And it's, you know what? It's a great approach, but it's also a really good way to destroy your career, because you know, your credibility, your reputation is on the line, especially when you get those references to call an individual, and that reference calls that person and say, hey, Jeff is going to give you a call tomorrow around 2:00. And you make that phone call and it's just a complete disaster. There's a lot on the line when you really think about it. When you go, you know, when you, again, your company doesn't pay your salary, a customer does. So, you know, there's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff on the line. And if you don't play your cards right, you do your homework. That's why I say it's not the quantity of calls, it's the quality and the meaningfulness behind each call made. You want to have an impact. You want to provide value. You know, you want to make it short. You don't want to make it long-winded. And you will, at the end of the conversation, you want them to give you a call back. That's the name of the game. You know, whenever that may be, like you said, Ryan, you sent out a ton of emails, and then all of a sudden you look in your inbox and you're like, wow, they must have got my email, you know? So it's the same thing with a call. You know, it's like you write down the name of the company and who you spoke to, and then 5, 6, a month, you know, 2 months later, you get a call, and it's like, wow, I must have broke through, you know?
And it's like,
But
you know, you look at when you exactly say that, right? You just got to remember, even as a salesperson operating, like you're not, the customer is not, they're not going to buy from you on your time. They're going to buy on their time, right? So, like, you know, you were looking at the end of the year and we're kind of saying, hey, we're not going to be closing business to start now, but hey, let's look at next year. Let's look at Q1, Q2, right? So those are the things that are important. And I like what you said based off of referrals, because your credibility, your reputation is so important, right? We said this earlier this week with our Thanksgiving. It's like this week, it's hell. Like if you haven't planned out this week, do not take those loads that you cannot cover just because you can ruin relationships this week. And Dan, I want to ask you, like, getting back to like what makes a good salesperson? What are some of the qualities? Because obviously you've been on the sales side and you've been a teacher, like a sales trainer as well. What are those qualities that somebody has?
Consistency. I believe first and foremost in consistency. Like here's the thing when it comes to sales. I believe, and I operate every day, that when I speak to somebody, they're writing down my name and when I say I'm going to call back. Even if it's on a voicemail, hey, I'll call you in 2 days. Today's Thursday. That means Monday they're on a call. I can't tell you how many times early in my career I've had to wipe my system out completely because I forgot to call people back, or I got tied up with a customer and I didn't do follow-ups for 3 months. And for me, that's number one. Number two is you take consistency and you roll it over into your ideal client profile. I can't tell you how many headaches you will save, how many pains of sleeping, how many sleepless nights you will save if you deal with people that are truly congruent with you. And, you know, I think we've all been there, guys, where we have we make a sales call and like 6 months later, we finally land this business and we keep it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then it's gone. Right. And then we have another sales call. We're literally 3 sales calls in, 2 weeks in. We're doing a ton of business with this company and we keep them for years. Yeah. Right. Because the two of us are congruent in whatever manner that is, whether it be dogs and they love dogs as well. And that's where you have that commonality. And then, you know, there's that passion that rolls over into business where you're congruent on that level as well, whether it be snowmobiling. I mean, I've told you guys a story about one of my buddies back 3 years ago. He would say, do you like baseball? All of his customers love baseball. That's all he does all day is talk baseball. And he has a multi-million-dollar business. The guy's doing over $2 million GP a year talking baseball every day. So it's that niche. But what he does is his ideal customers love baseball. Yeah. And it's the amount of headaches, the amount of sleepless nights, the amount of times I've been sick, and the amount of times I've hated this industry has all stemmed from dealing with the wrong people. And then you take that and you flip that into your supplier side. Who's your ideal supplier? And what I did in the latter part of my career is I would start to talk to people. Oh, who do you like to do? Are they good? Yeah. What kind of value do they bring? What kind of service? If things go wrong, what happens? Then I'd call them and I'd say, hey, Jeff told me to call you. So I do the referral method with my suppliers, and the business worked. And I think, those three are top of the pile. And then 4, read. Like, just read sales books, read psychology books, read personal development books, read books that help you become a more rounded human being, that help you understand situations, that help you understand that empathy that you're going to need with the suppliers. And then to round it out, understand these guys and gals are getting so many calls that it's actually wasting their time and they're unable to do their job. So how are you going to break through that? And I've always done it with a simple script. And it is your first question to see if they fit your client profile. And that's it, because no matter what, and think of it, and the way I thought of it is this, guys, no matter what is going on in our head, like no matter what's going on in our day, right? If you're sitting here and you're saying, man, I need a better mic, but you got all this work going on, and somebody calls you and says, hey, you ever thought about getting a better mic? You're like, yeah, I have. Yeah. Okay. Instead of saying, hey, it's Dan calling from Mics R Us. Hey, I got a question for you. How are you presently set up with your operation on your podcast? You're going to be like, sales call. But if you say you need a better mic because your niche is mics. If I don't need a better mic, I'm going to be like, no, I don't need a better mic. Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Because why am I going to try and convince you that you need a better mic when you think the Blue Yeti is the best mic on the planet, or AirPod Pros are the best mics that you can use? Like it's a waste of your time. But if you come into the conversation right where they are, so Jeff, this is my main thing. This is what I do to help customers. Does that even interest you? Yeah, it does. Let's talk. But let's talk about for the new year. That's still a very high quality lead for you going into 2023. But I just think so many salespeople are, what do they say? Like a jack of all trades is a master of none, or whatever it is. Yep, and I think a lot of salespeople are that. And and you know what, guys? I don't think it's intentionally. I think it comes because of the structure. Numbers on the board. And when you're a new salespeople,
like desperate too. It sounds desperate too.
But
you're in there. I can do this. Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, it comes with experience, right? You got to go through it, right? Like, you're not going to know what a shipping manager or even what a carrier says if you don't pick up that phone and you make that call and understand. And it comes with time, right? So I think for us, we're being tools for people who want to kind of up-level, like the 4 things that you said, Dan. And for me, the biggest thing for me that I've worked on that I think is one of the most important one of the most qualities of salesmen is knowing storytelling. And I think storytelling is one of the biggest things that is underutilized. Being able to tell a story and be able to basically captivate that audience, whether I'm talking to you guys, I'm talking to my wife, talking to my family, or I'm talking to a customer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to, but being able to be a better storyteller. And I know people are going to be like, okay, well, you're saying storyteller. How do I become a better storyteller? It's simple things. You can go to public speaking courses. You can do some online courses. You can do practice with yourself in the mic. You can do improv lessons. Like, I remember I loved improv in elementary school, and just to kind of think on the spot. And even with storytelling too, it comes with situations. So let's say you've had a load that was on Thanksgiving. You're going to have that story to tell another customer next year. Right. So I think one of the best qualities that you can have is really storytelling and guide that captivating audience. Because I don't know if you guys have ever done this with books. I've always said this. I'm not a big fan of books, but when I read fiction books, I'd read the first 2 pages and the last 2 pages. And if that didn't hook me in, then I'm not gonna read the book.
That's an interesting way of doing it, Ryan. Because you got your first, so you got your intro 2 pages.
Yeah, the first 2 pages
the way the
of the
story
book
ends.
Yeah, so when I'm in chapters or Indigo, I like fiction books because I like to imagine that story in my head, especially if there's not a movie for it or anything like that. But yeah, pick up the book. It could be even a sales book, a nonfiction book as well. Read the first 2 pages, read the last 2 pages, see if it intrigues you, and then go from there.
That's a very cool strategy. And you know what? Reading books helps you tell better stories.
There we go.
Because as you read the books, every book is a story. Even a personal development book, there's stories in there. And you read, and then you're in your head, it starts formulating, oh, that's how I put that story together. And that's how I would put that story together. And you are right. As you go through this career, you find actual stories for situations that happened. And
just like the story of
mean,
like, hey, we should be getting better internet. Remember that?
Yes,
time?
the story of the Geek Squad in Jersey that just doesn't exist or something. I don't know what it is, but it's and then you know what? Here's the thing: we'll be telling that story offline. Oh yeah, we were with Jeff, but he jumps out twice or whatever, twice a show to do that. And you know what? Here's the thing: speaking of jumping out.
Dan, what do you got for us for Turkey Day?
Beautiful segue.
Was that a good segue? I don't know. Ryan tends to do much better.
I'll give it a 5. What does everybody in the audience kind of think? Give us
jumping off. Boom.
Yeah, you see that? That's right, because you hit 88, right? And then you're gone. Back to the Future, remember? So this one's a drive van. It's from Medford, Oregon to Fresno, California. $1.73 per mile. Rate all including fuel surcharge, $2.39. Contracted rate is $3.28. So you're about to see that contracted rate drop. I'll tell you that. Year over year, spot line haul rate is down 69 cents. There's been a recent rate jump on this lane. Outbound capacity has tightened. The current rate is 36 cents higher than the October average. So if we look at the October average, it's 36 cents higher. That means we were talking well over $1.20. The contracted rate was higher, which tells you that that's going to catch up pretty damn soon. So thank you to DAT for the lane of the day on that one. And then we will still have a weekly roundup lane of the day tomorrow for you. But
as you guys can tell, Dan's a lot better at this than I am. So Dan, you're all.
Oh yeah, he is.
I want to bring up Damon's comment here because I think it's like really important. Especially the qualities that a salesperson has. Be respectful, listen to what they say, stay persistent, do the research, know your capabilities, and be able to offer solutions. Sales is easy, guys. It's just like we always talk about, doing the consistency and doing the work. And I love when you say this because I'm reading all these qualities and I'm remembering when I was dating my wife. Just keeping all these values and these qualities in the back of my mind so that, hey, maybe she'll want to take this further, and thankfully she did, right? But it's in all facets.
Know your capabilities.
Yes. Oh yes.
And Ryan, you bring up a very good point. This is courting. When you're selling, you're courting somebody to work with you long term. And the fact is, a lot of the times you spend more time with your customers than you do with your family. Right? It is what it is. If you have a customer that's a large customer, you probably travel with them more than you travel with your family. And so it is a courting experience. And not to sound corny or weird in any way, but it is. And it's like if you were going for a wife or a husband or a partner or whatever it is, and you hated 9 different things about them, it's like you would never marry them.
Yeah.
But how many times do we hate so many things about a customer? But it's like, they give me commission.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work with them, right? And it creates. You allow the business to design your life instead of you designing your life around business, right?
Yep.
And Damon's statement there said it bang on. Know your capabilities. Okay. Honestly, 2 of you. How many times have you made a promise that you knew there was no which way in shape in hell you could fulfill, and then put it on other people to fulfill? I mean, all day long when I first started, I would be like, yes, we will take it. And my ops team would be like, Dan, that's $200 cheaper than what we're getting it for. And my answer would be, find a way to make it work. And it wouldn't.
Sure. And
we'd get egg in our face. And I'd get mad at my ops team because I made a promise I could never keep, ever. I knew my capabilities. I knew my team's capabilities. And this person wanted this. And I was like, I want the commission. Okay.
Yeah.
But you put so many people out. Your wake destroys everything behind you when you do that.
Yeah,
And
something what Ryan said before, about storytelling. Well, a lot of that you have to fall back on your experience, right?
yeah, that's for sure.
So what have you done in the past, that's relative to the conversation? We all tell stories, like you said, Ryan, every single day, even when you meet a new person. Like when I met Ryan, Ryan met me, thank God that we're both not introverts. All right. I mean, because to be a good sales guy, you have to be an extrovert, no matter which way you look at it, and be able to talk to anybody on the street or say hi to someone or whatever, to make their day. That's a huge benefit on the sales side. But that's storytelling, being a good listener, like Daman said, and then be able to absorb it and then come back like that with a story that's relevant to the conversation that opens up other doors. That and it's critical. So if you don't have that experience, like Dan said, read, get your knowledge every single day, listen to different podcasts, listen to competitors, and create your own approach on that. But there's nothing better than experience. Ryan can talk experience, Dan can talk experience, I can talk experience, but the new people that are coming on board, it's very, very difficult. That's where you go to the books. That's where you go to, the library, you go to LinkedIn, you ask these questions. It's okay. There's no stupid questions. You've heard that over and over again.
You can also, one thing, sorry, Ryan, one thing that is very critical, and I believe every brand new sales rep, if you're listening to this is the first thing you should do. You should pick 5 to 10 salespeople in your company that have been there for a while and sit down with them for an hour and a half and say, share some stories about some shit that's happened. Yeah. And listen. Was that what you were going to say, Ryan?
Yeah, damn it. I was like, yeah, that's legit exactly what I was going to say.
Right. Well, and it's true, right? So you continue that conversation then.
Yeah, no, it's important. So I've actually been asked that, what's the one tip that you would give to a new salesperson? And what I would do is go shadow the top sales guy, go shadow them, see what they do. Eat, as it might sound weird, but eat what they eat, follow their schedule, do exactly what they do, because they're a high performer for a reason. They're calculated. They do if Jeff was in Toronto, I would go spend a week with him, see what he does, see what everything he does. I've spent time with Dan to see how he is in sales meetings and sales calls and things like that. So I just think it's just really important. If you don't have the experience, learn, because every salesman, they're willing to help you.
Listen to a very good sales guy's phone call when he calls a prospect. And if you can, because when I worked for a company that was big sellers, they would have a new person come in, put headphones on, and they could tap into there and listen to what they were saying in their opening statement when they did a prospect call. And, you can see it on their face where they're taking a lot of notes and they're smiling and they go like this to the guy, and it doesn't faze him. And he's, boom, right on target, like a freaking machine. So, I mean, if you work into those big, huge brokerage houses and that you have that ability and they have the ability to tap in and put a headset on, fantastic.
But there's also a dark side to that. I did that when I first started. I sat down with the top salesperson in the company, and within 3 months, I acted exactly like the top salesperson in the company, and that's not me. And I remember
they don't know any better. They don't know.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is how I have to. Yeah, this is how I have to call to make the money. This is how I have to act, because this is the way he acted. That was his demeanor. That was the way he was.
He didn't know.
And I mean, it worked for him.
Yeah,
it worked for his personality. It didn't work for me, Jeff. But I was like, okay, well, that's the way I have to do it. And I remember some of my friends saying, who are you? I'm like, what do you mean?
Gucci suit, hair slick back.
Yeah, no, literally, this guy was suits, and all of a sudden I was going and buying $300 suits, and I was wearing suits with ties, and it was I was like the cargo pant, parachute pant dude with the friggin' toque in the wintertime, the skidoo coat. You know what I mean? I wasn't that guy.
Emulating.
And it did me more harm because I didn't take what he was saying and say, okay, here's what he's saying, but here's how it would sound when I say it.
Yeah.
So let's put my Danerisms in it and make, the points are great, but not verbatim. And a lot of the times people try and do the verbatim because they want to have the success.
Which
You know,
is
Daman says something here that actually is bang on. When it comes to customers, you will only attract who you are versus attracting who you want, which means if you want high level conversations with executives, you'll need to raise your own levels if you're not already there.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's true.
The biggest thing is to be yourself. Don't try to emulate others. You know, and you know this, you can become your own worst enemy. You truly can. So when you do listen to these calls, you don't have to be exactly what they do. Be yourself. It's all about you. You know, you're not selling others. You're selling your own self. And you should remember that always when you make a phone call. This is not about them. It's about you.
And it's like Carissa said, like you're making your own soup, right? Ryan's soup is going to be different from Dan's soup. And a quick story about that actually made me really smile. I went to the pet store last night and I actually saw a product that I physically brought. You know, that I physically arranged there. And I took a video, I took a thing. But the one thing is too, like for me, I work in the pet industry. Shout out to Lisa and Chad. They do that as well. But it's like, you know, when you genuinely love something, like you normally think you go to a pet store, you'll spend maybe 5-10 minutes, go grab your bag of kibble or grab your food. You're in and out. I spent 40 minutes there yesterday with the store owner. She's telling me about all these kibbles and telling me about all these brands and everything like that. And it's like, I got all this, like, what is it? Like all these weapons in my artillery that I'm ready to go today. Right. So it's like when you get to be yourself, like Dan was saying it, let's say he sat with the top sales guy and he was the baseball guy. Dan was texting me about soccer yesterday and he doesn't know shit about soccer. So it's like, you know, it doesn't work for me. But what does Dan like? Dan loves snowmobiling. You know, like you get a customer who does snowmobiles, he'll talk your ear off. Jeff, you've done a thing with horses and dogs and you have your niche and stuff like that. But you can have a genuine conversation without talking freight. And that's one of the best things ever that you can do. Right. So just be authentic to yourself.
Absolutely.
Well, and it stemmed from yesterday when we were talking. You're like, dude, we need to get some sports guys on here. I said, okay, I got to start watching sports. So I watched the Canada-Belgium football game, and I think 3/4 of the times when I was talking to Ryan, I'm like, why is Portugal? Like they weren't even playing; they were playing Belgium, and I'm like, why is Portugal? I go, why are these guys flailing around and falling on the ground trying to draw penalties? Like, and because my reference is hockey, right? Like my sport is hockey, so I'm like, in hockey. You do that, you get your head kicked in. Like the ref's just gonna look at you and go, whatever, lie down and cry, and then the game's gonna continue. But
you're probably thinking, where's Connor McDavid? Why isn't he on the pitch? You know?
Yeah, but it was because it was like it just seemed like there was all these penalties that should have been Canada should have had, and they didn't. But anytime we even touched Belgium, they fell and there was penalties. So I was texting Ryan going, is that normal? But for me, again, I go back to this. I don't know a lot about soccer. I don't pretend to know a lot about soccer. I mean, to the point where when it comes to the World Cup, years ago, I had a buddy, Sonny, and I'm like, dude, what's with all the flags in all everybody's cars? He's like, what do you live under a fucking rock? It's World Cup. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like that bad, right? But so I was trying to learn, knowing Ryan knows. So I'm like, is that normal? He says, yeah, it's totally normal. Okay, is that normal? And I probably was bugging him because he wanted to watch the game. But I learned about a little bit about soccer yesterday that's allowed me to have a better understanding when I watched the second half. Mm-hmm. I was able to watch the second half and say, okay, now I got a better understanding. A couple of questions. And I think a big challenge for a lot of people is they're afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah.
They're afraid. Maybe they won't think I know. I don't care. I don't care. I don't know a lot of things. I'm ignorant to a lot of things. But if you have a little bit of knowledge, and I can gain that little bit of knowledge like I did yesterday with Ryan in 6 texts, brother, 7, maybe 8 texts back and forth, I learned more than I've known in 45 years about soccer. And I played soccer as a kid, but it was, the kind where everybody just kind of, every single kick at the goal was a goal.
Yeah. Participation. But you relate that back to sales, right? So it's like you didn't know anything about soccer. So like for me, like I don't know anything. Lisa was talking yesterday about carbonated beverages. I didn't know anything about that. I did a couple shipments, but I won't know the ins and outs of it, but I can always learn about it. And that's the one thing. Always chase and always be a student, I think is one of the best qualities that you can have is always like, you're never going to be a teacher of the game. One of my best things I love to see, gentlemen, is why coaches are coaches. You know, you go into a boxing gym, you see that 90, 80-year-old guy, he looks like he can't do anything. But then when he starts warming up the pads and you're like, oh, okay, this is why the guy is the guy, right? So I think just always kind of be an ongoing student, because like in what other way would Jeff and I connect, right? When we think about it, he's in New Jersey, I'm in Toronto. Dan made that together, and we have that similarity of logistics and the love of logistics, right? So you can always learn. I know I learn from Jeff. Jeff learns from us with the video and everything like that. So always be an ongoing student.
And you know something, don't be afraid to get to that point when you're talking to a prospect to say, do you have any questions? You know, have them call you out, because that gives them the ability to say, does this guy know what the hell he's talking about? You know, so open up that channel, you know, right on the spot. Do you have any questions, John? You know, if he starts asking you those questions, you're in. You are in, you know, because he's testing the waters on whether or not you have that experience, you know, that niche, you know that mode, and that could just break it down quickly for them, you know, or open a door really fast for you. So,
and it can add a story to your book of stories.
Absolutely.
The next time you give that presentation, you know, at this point, we had some customers ask this, not sure if you're thinking it, but here's the, you know, the recall from it.
That's it. But I mean, seriously, think about that. If the end result is for them to ask you questions and call you out as a service provider, perfect opportunity.
Bring it on.
It's platinum.
Yes, platinum, you know, and it's like when you look at the interview process too, right? And people are always, hey, name a time you had an adversity and you overcame it. But they have all these standard questions. But where you really get in, if you have a chance or not, is when they ask you at the end, what kind of questions do you have? You know, you ask about their culture, you ask what the day-to-day is and things like that. It shows an interest from your side that you're interested in them just not being there to collect a paycheck as well, right? So I think from all facets, just always ask questions. And the one thing I've learned, gentlemen, is like on Wednesdays with Dean and kind of going, he's talking about like different lanes and different things like that. It might not be relevant to me, but like, I don't care if I sound stupid asking him a question. How does it relate to the broker sales side, right? Because that's what I'm doing. You know, there's definitely no stupid questions, right? So always ask those questions. And like we've always said, you know, everybody, I can text Dan, I can text Jeff, find those people that, you know, that you definitely trust and have that experience so that you can just soak it up like a sponge.
That's it. That's what you got to do in this industry. Absorb.
I love this conversation, by the way. I think this is a banger episode.
Yeah. No, it's good. And we should have more of these. And also the audience that's watching, ask these pertinent questions like you would ask a prospect, and see what our responses were about that specific question, which would probably help you open up the door as well. You know, either we ask you the questions as a prospect or you ask us as the prospect, and have that engagement, because it does help out a tremendous amount. Role playing, that's what it's all about.
And I would even say test.
Yes.
You know, what about instead of you asking a question or instead of you presenting, you start with, okay, what are some of the common questions you want to know from one of your brokers or from one of your service providers? And let them bombard you with questions prior to giving your presentation or prior to even having the conversation. Hey, the last person that called you up for a sales call, because this is a sales call, Mr. Prospect, what were some of the biggest things that pissed you off about it?
They'll have a lot.
And then all of a sudden it's like bang, 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 bang. But what I'm saying is you're coming in at a completely different angle than anyone else.
Yes.
Right. And maybe it will work. I mean, try it. What do you got to lose?
Nothing.
Nothing to lose. Nothing.
You're just going to gain.
Yeah.
You're going to gain.
All you're going to do is you either created a brand new gold formula to connect with people, or you realize it didn't work. Okay. Next call. Some will, some won't. So what? Go for no. Andrea Waltz.
Yeah. Exactly. Go for no every day.
It's awesome, boys. You know, this is great. Yeah, this is awesome. I thoroughly loved it. I'm definitely going to be checking it out again and kind of take some pieces from it. So I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Dan, Jeff, happy Thanksgiving again to Jeff and all our friends in the U.S. this week. If you guys enjoy, please have gratitude. I want you guys to see working through the holidays, spend some time with family, and spend a lot of money tomorrow so that supply chains can be replenished. So we got some shipments going out there. But thank you, everybody. We're going to hit the replay again at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern time. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Tomorrow, we're going to have our wins and lessons for the week. We had a great week and looking forward to wrapping it up with you guys.
Happy
Take care.
Twitter
Thanksgiving.
even,
Enjoy your
is
day.
Twitter still around? Is Twitter still
it
going?
is.
Yeah, for right
Yeah.
now. Okay. Yeah,
It
because I
is.
heard Elon's not paying bills now or something at Twitter.
Yeah, he's well, even like Tesla's stock. I don't know if you're in the stock market, but like they took a big dive. So, like I said, man, bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, he lost like $100 billion of his wealth in like 36 hours or something, didn't he? Yeah.
I'd like to spend $100 billion in 24 hours. You know,
Dude, I don't think
give me
you
that
could.
opportunity.
I would give. I'll tell you what, because life is short. I would give most of that away to some really good foundations that could really truly use it for sure.
I thought you were going to say life is short. I'd give it a real good chance.
Like, Dan, you want $1 million or two? Yeah, sure.
Are you kidding? You greedy bugger, $1 million or two? You got $100 billion? You're going to give me $1 million or two? I thought we were friends, man.
All right, we'll have this conversation
Offline.
Come on,
yeah,
internet,
offline.
man. Cut out, internet.
Cut off internet.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career